Let's dive into one of the most classic military what-ifs out there. What if you could send a single piece of future technology back in time to completely change the course of history? Not an army, not a genius general, but one perfect futuristic machine.
So, what would actually happen if a modern F-35 Lightning II stealth fighter, the absolute pinnacle of 21st century aviation, just appeared out of nowhere in the skies of World War II? Could one plane really change the outcome of the biggest war in human history?
To really get your head around the colossal tech gap here, just look at this comparison. On one side, you've got the Japanese A6M Zero, which was a seriously good fighter plane in 1941. And on the other, the F-35. We're talking a top speed of over Mach 1.6 versus, well, something that can't even break the sound barrier. Advanced stealth versus literally no stealth. Guided missiles versus old-school machine guns. It's not a fair fight. It's not even a fight, it's a technological massacre.
So picture this, a single F-35 just shows up on the world stage in the 1940s. It's a complete anomaly, right? A ghost in the machine of industrial warfare. So how would it actually perform?
Okay, first and foremost, its biggest advantage is stealth. To the radar systems they had back then, like Germany's Freya and Würzburg networks, the F-35 would be a phantom. Its radar signature is so unbelievably small that those early primitive systems wouldn't even know it was there until it was way, way too late. It could just cruise over enemy territory like it owned the place.
And even if they somehow spotted it, what could they possibly do? The F-35 can hit supersonic speeds and fly at altitudes that propeller planes like the German Bf 109 or the British Spitfire could only dream of reaching. Trying to intercept it? That'd be like trying to catch a bullet with a butterfly net. It's playing a totally different sport.
But here's the real game changer. What the F-35 can see. Its sensor suite is so advanced it could spot an entire Japanese naval fleet or a huge formation of German bombers from hundreds of kilometers away. It would know the enemy's exact location, where they were heading, and how many there were, long before any World War II pilot could even see a tiny speck in the sky.
With all these insane advantages, it seems totally invincible, doesn't it? A true war-winning weapon dropped right into the past. But this is where our story takes a really sharp turn, because the F-35's greatest strengths are directly tied to its biggest, and in this case, its most fatal weaknesses.
And here is the massive catch. The F-35 is a thoroughbred racehorse, and it needs a state-of-the-art stable to survive. It runs on a specialized jet fuel, JP-8, that simply didn't exist back then. Its stealth coating requires constant, complex, climate-controlled maintenance. Its guided missiles, they're amazing, but you only have a few, and once they're gone, they're gone. There are no spare parts, no software updates, and, this is the big one, no GPS or satellite network for it to connect to. After just a handful of missions, this superweapon would be a very expensive, very useless museum piece.
So at the end of the day, a single F-35 could have a mind-blowing military and psychological impact on any one battle. I mean, at Pearl Harbor, it could have been a game-changer for the fleet. Against the Luftwaffe, it would have been an untouchable god of the skies. But its actual chance to change the long-term outcome of the war, it's pretty low. War is a meat grinder of industry and logistics, and even the most advanced plane in the world eventually runs out of gas.
But hang on, that's just for one plane. What if we didn't just send back one? What if, instead of sending a lone wolf, we sent back an entire wolf pack? Now, this is where the thought experiment gets really wild. We're talking about the idea of force multiplication. We're not dealing with a single anomaly anymore. We're going to scale this up from one jet to a full squadron of 12 F-35s, and finally, to the whole shebang, an entire floating fortress, a modern nuclear-powered aircraft carrier with all its planes and support crew. See, a squadron of 12 F-35s could establish absolute, round-the-clock air superiority over a whole region, like the skies over Normandy during D-Day. But a modern carrier, say the USS Gerald R. Ford, appearing in the Pacific in 1942, that one ship could probably annihilate the entire Japanese Navy in a few months, basically ending the war in the Pacific right there. It's a self-contained ecosystem of overwhelming power.
You can see a really clear pattern here. The tactical impact, winning a battle, is always huge. But the strategic impact, the ability to win the entire war, it just scales up dramatically. With a squadron, changing history is possible. With a carrier, it's very possible. But it's that final step up that makes it almost a dead certainty.
And that brings us to the final, and honestly, the most important piece of this whole puzzle. We've talked about the plane, the squadron, the carrier, but guess what? None of those are the true superweapon of the modern era. The real power is something you can't even see. This quote from our source material just nails it perfectly. It captures that 80-year technology gap in a way that just clicks. A World War II army was like a rotary phone. It worked, but it was slow and isolated. A modern military, it's like a globally networked smartphone, constantly sharing, processing, and acting on an unbelievable flood of information.
The military term for this is information superiority. And really, all it means is having the ability to know everything about your enemy while making sure they are completely in the dark about you. It is, without a doubt, the single biggest advantage in modern warfare, way more important than just speed or stealth or firepower on their own.
You see, the F-35 is just the tip of the spear. The real weapon is the entire network that supports it. Satellites that see everything from orbit. AWACS planes that act as flying command centers, data links that share information in real time, and GPS that guides bombs to a target with perfect accuracy. If you dropped this whole ecosystem into the 1940s, the war would be over in months, maybe even weeks.
So, what's the big lesson here? What's the one thing you should take away from all of this? Well, it's a really fundamental point about what modern power actually is, and honestly, how all complex technology really works.
That single amazing piece of technology, the silver bullet, yeah, it can cause shock and awe for sure, but it can't win a war all by itself. It's just too fragile, too dependent on a world that hasn't been built yet.
The true superweapon is the system. It's the whole network of information, logistics, maintenance, and industry that allows that one fighter jet to be in exactly the right place at exactly the right time with exactly the right weapon. That is the real engine of modern victory.
Which leaves us with one last thing to think about. If the last century's wars were defined by industrial might, and our current century is defined by information, what does that tell us about the conflicts of the future? It seems pretty clear the battle for tomorrow won't just be fought with planes and tanks, but with data, networks, and algorithms.